Who killed MOBHAD? This has been the question on the lips of Nigerians in the past week, but so far, no concrete answers have been found, only speculations. Some believe he died from an ear infection. Others strongly suggest that he was killed by juju after an altercation with a friend, and finally, there are those who understand that MOBHAD died from depression, which was caused by hypertension from living a life of constant fear of apprehension. But before I get into the details of MOBHAD's murder, let me first make you understand who MOBHAD was, both as a person and as a music artist. MOBHAD, 27, was an Afro street artist, a husband, and a father of one. KPK and Ronaldo are two of his all-time hits. If the lyrics to his music is anything to go by, he was what you would call a trenches kid who had quite a troubled childhood, especially when his mom sought her own path after separating from his father. So MOBHAD was raised by his father and stepmother. MOBHAD dropped out of school at the tertiary level to follow his dream of becoming a musician. He utilized social media really well in this quest. He regularly recorded and posted his freestyles, covers to hit songs by popular artists like Kiz Daniel and Techno on Instagram. He started to gain some fame and attention on Instagram, and in 2019, his luck seemed to have shined brightest when A-list Nigerian artist Naira Marley signed him to his record label, Marley Music. If only he had known, just like every marriage, the initial beginnings of MOBHAD's early years with his new music family was all rosy. In fact, just after a year of signing with Marley Music, MOBHAD released his debut album, titled Light, an 8-track EP, and that was a massive success. He recorded over 25 million streams on Audiomack alone in the first month of release, and the award nominations, of course, came pouring in. He was truly moving like the next big thing in the Nigerian music industry at this point, and everything seemed to have been going on well until in September 2022. MOBHAD expressed to his boss, Naira Marley, that he wanted to change his manager, who was one of Naira Marley's men. Now, artists changing managers in the course of their careers were no big deal, and the expectation, though after further deliberation, was that this would be no different. But I kid you not, in MOBHAD's case, he was beaten for making such requests. He even recorded a video via IG Live to describe his ordeal, and further reiterated that his own music label was after his life, and they should be questioned if he eventually passed on. Just a month after that trending video, MOBHAD announced his full exit from Marley Music on his Instagram page. He thought that was going to be it. Oh, poor him. In fact, matters got even worse for him after his exit from Marley Music, as his former bosses continued to sabotage his music deals and shows. If promoters inquired about MOBHAD from Marley Music, they besmirched his name by claiming MOBHAD was insane, that he was not mentally sound, so promoters should not bill him for their shows. That was even the least of all. MOBHAD's former bosses, usually spearheaded by Naira Marley's best friend, Sam Larry, planted informants everywhere to track his every move. MOBHAD was subjected to constant assaults and violent attacks on sets, at his shows, and even at his home in Lekki. They simply thwarted his career and tormented his life after his exit from Marley Music. MOBHAD constantly lived in fear from the attacks and torments from his former bosses. He even on 25th of June this year reported Naira Marley and Sam Larry to the Commissioner of Police, Lagos State, about how MOBHAD had been assaulted by a group of 15 armed men led by Larry, who invaded his studios with guns and cutlasses, attacked him, and destroyed instruments and properties worth 5 million naira.
With his boys.
He claimed he only escaped that attack by the skin of his tooth. MOBHAD again requested that those two be questioned if he were to die. A troubled MOBHAD, following his daily struggles of living a life of fear, had become hypertensive and even suicidal at a point. He had become a patient frequenting hospitals, and finally on 12th September, MOBHAD breathed his last breath. He was aged just 27, living behind a 24-year-old widow, Omawunmi, and a 5-month-old son, Liam. Now, this is where things get really fishy. Just hours after MOBHAD's untimely demise, his family rushed to bury him, like they were already expecting it. It even got messier when they brought an undersized casket for his burial, which meant they had to force MOBHAD's corpse to fit into it by breaking his neck. Like they were in some real haste to hide something, and should I tell you what, right after MOBHAD's demise and the public's cry for justice, MOBHAD's former bosses Naira Marley and Larry astonishingly fled Manchuria. Manchuria police have since exhumed MOBHAD's body for autopsy examinations, and a lot of rumors have since flown around that even MOBHAD's son was not biologically his but Sam Larry's. Let me tell you more of what I have found. Marley in music, a cult to my initial take is, even if it is not directly, MOBHAD's former bosses still killed him from rampant physical attacks and emotional torments. I have come to ascertain that Marley in music is in fact a cult, a cartel for drug peddling that has been paraded as a music record label. MOBHAD's experience with street life while growing up did him a lot of good fitting in when he first joined the cult. He was liked by everyone, especially Naira Marley, because he was essentially good for the drug peddling business. But as time went on and MOBHAD began to gain more and more experience on the job, he got greedy over his pay. He felt he was being cheated by his bosses, hence why he wanted to switch managers, but that was definitely not possible. And so MOBHAD eventually called it quits with his bosses at Marley Records. He knew the consequences, that cult ships were a forever thing, with no freedom of opting out upon his own will, and still did it anyway. He brought all this upon himself. MOBHAD had his own issues. That Marley in Music wasn't a cult group actually explains why Sam Larry was all over MOBHAD since he left the label. They needed to keep a close eye on MOBHAD to prevent him from prattling about any of Marley in Music's dark secrets, since MOBHAD was widely known as a prattling junkie whenever he was high. In fact, reports have emerged since MOBHAD died that he was normally not himself. He was prone to frequently forget little details about himself, like his phone password, bank account details, song lyrics, and even appointments. MOBHAD's wife did confirm that MOBHAD was in fact an unhappy person all the time. MOBHAD was definitely not a saint. He even had his own issues with the law, where he was last arrested by Nigeria police in September last year over possession of hard drugs. And it was after he was released that he made that famous IG live video accusing his former bosses at Marley in Music for ratting him out. MOBHAD's wife cheated. While rumors of Sam Larry being the actual father of MOBHAD's son were only premature at this stage, I have found concrete evidence that MOBHAD and Sam Larry never saw eye to eye over more personal reasons. MOBHAD's current wife and mother of his son, Omoami, is actually Sam Larry's ex-partner. This explains why MOBHAD had become Larry's personal punching bag since MOBHAD quit Marley in Music. I have also heard stories that MOBHAD practically snatched Omoami from Larry's hands after he gained fame, and Larry had never taken things lightly on him ever since. Hence, the reason for his constant oppression of MOBHAD before his death. Sam Larry has connections. It is also important to know that Larry is heavily connected. In fact, he knew people, like some big names as well as some real bad guys. Larry is known to have connections with top Manchurian government officials, with evidence that he played a role in the rumored rigging of Manchuria's last general elections that saw Tinubu assume presidential office. But that is not the actual point here. The whole point here is that Larry is connected, and that is exactly why he was able to flee the country with Naira Marley the moment MOBHAD died. They both knew what was coming, and so they decided to act really fast. And knowing the justice system in Nigeria, by the time they return, then the steam from the case would have definitely cooled down. MOBHAD's father, another suspect, but the prime suspect in all this is MOBHAD's father. He personally paid for MOBHAD's casket for burial. Additionally, his priorities in this case have been somewhat shocking. MOBHAD's coffin had only been covered for a few hours, and his father had already started fighting MOBHAD's wife about MOBHAD's properties. He even recorded a video of how MOBHAD even neglected him while he was alive. He was actually being paid by Marley and Larry to divert people's attention as to what really was at stake. Even if MOBHAD was a bad son, which I would not be shocked to know he was, I believe now was definitely not the time for his father to fight about properties. This vividly explains the dad's haste to bury MOBHAD just a few hours after his passing, because he definitely had been paid up to bury his son as fast as possible to cover things up. Naira Marley and Larry were the perpetrators of MOBHAD's murder, and MOBHAD's father, given his actions after MOBHAD's death, has only confirmed everyone's suspicions that MOBHAD did not die a natural death. MOBHAD's father has actually jumped on Naira Marley and Sam Larry's defense that those two were innocent in his son's demise. Police investigations and final thoughts. Now, the Nigerian masses have been so hard on this case, and so has the police with their investigations, but I am sorry to disappoint you all that I hardly believe anything substantial would come out of police investigations. Remember that Larry is heavily connected, and in any case, any potential evidence would be tossed in his favor. I am sorry, but this is the reality of the matter. I personally do not see neither Naira Marley nor Larry getting arrested over MOBHAD's death, let alone suffer penalties from it. This is the Nigeria justice system we are talking about. The same system that has bred more corrupt officials than anywhere else I could possibly imagine. The farthest police can go is to pick them up for investigations, that is all. But I want to know what you all also think. Do you think something can really come out of police investigations, and that Marley and Larry would be arrested and sentenced, and why?